Scott here. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. I'm super excited that you are here with me today to talk about life, leadership, and legacy. Before I introduce my very special guest, if you have not done it yet, go and subscribe to Leading with Lee right now on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. But let me introduce this great guest that I have today. He is an entrepreneur. He's a worship pastor. He does a whole bunch of stuff and that we'll get in today. Please welcome to Leading my guy, Jason Gibson. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing well, man. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Well, first of all, thank you for coming on, man, and being here and engaging in conversation with me. It's interesting because I don't often get the opportunity to talk to people from Jackson. So it's kind of a fun thing that I get to talk to another Jacksonian. I'm not going to criticize you. Where did you go to high school?
I went to Callaway High School.
Oh Lord.
The Callaway High School.
Oh Lord. See, I'm just leave right there. 1400. 1400. We ain't gonna start it on here. We just gonna leave it where that is.
That's not even worth.
You know what? It's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna love you with the love of Christ and still remind you of 1400. But kind of talk to me, Jason, a little bit about your background and growing up in Jackson and what that was like for you, man.
So yeah, I was born and raised. First of all, hey everybody. As Lee said, I'm Jason Gibson. So I was born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. Native of Jackson. Jackson is where my heart is. I went to Callaway High School. After I graduated from Callaway, I took a full basketball scholarship to Holmes Community College. I played basketball. When I was done playing basketball at Holmes Community College, I went to Jackson State to continue my education in social studies and secondary education. Finished up in Jackson State, my undergrad in 2014, and I started to teach. I started to teach seventh grade at Blackburn Middle School, and I learned really quick that teaching on the K-12 level was not for me, so I stopped.
That's real.
Stopped. It only took one semester. I do miss teaching. Teaching is where my heart is, but maybe collegiate level, maybe some adjunct work in the near future. But until that time, so after that, I got my master's from Jackson State as well, with Master's of Arts in History with a focus in civil rights history, and I worked at Jackson State for about 2.5 years. I worked with the Division of Auxiliary Enterprises after I left Blackburn Middle School. And, there was just always this knowing. I think anybody that has a call or an assignment over their lives, there's always going to be like this internal, this burning unction on the inside of you until you fulfill that. So I knew I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship in some way, but I didn't know how. So after work, I just told myself, I said, I'm going to save X amount of money. As soon as I save this amount of money, I'm going to just resign from my job, resign from my position at Jackson State. Not knowing what I was going to do, not knowing, what avenue I was going to go in. Had no clue about nothing. I was doing a little bit in real estate. I had 2 rental properties at the time. But I said, I'm going to save this amount of money because I had bought a house too. So after I bought that house, it was like, I have to have some kind of income. I was also on staff of my church. So I did that, resigned from Jackson State. Long story, very, very short. Out of Jackson State, resigned from that. I started training. Then I opened a gym. Out of the gym, I continued to do real estate. But then out of the gym, I launched into the trucking industry in this past year. Stock market. There's a lot of stuff. But we'll get to talking about all that as time goes. But, I guess I'm just like a serial entrepreneur at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious. I follow you on social media, so I'm like, he doing something else? Like, how do you have time? How do you have time to do all this stuff? Because that actually leads into my next question. I mean, Jason, you have been, to be so young, bro, you are super accomplished. Like, you have set goals, you've met those goals, and you've accomplished a lot of the things you want to accomplish. But I mean, obviously, there's still so much more in front of you. But how are you balancing your work and just your personal life? Because that's a lot to be doing at once. Like, how are you balancing that?
Oh man, extreme discipline and boundaries, both of which I am learning an enormous amount about as I continue to matriculate through, life. Um, I said boundaries, just knowing me. Well, I'll start with the extreme discipline. Just little stuff. I'm in the bed by about 9:30 every night. I'm usually sleep between
Wow.
like I'm usually sleep between like 9:30 and 10. I wake up every morning at 3:45 a.m.
Wow.
Um, well, every weekday. I wake up every weekday 3:45, and I'm just really intentional about getting the schedule. I don't do it throughout the week as much as I do it on Mondays and Tuesday, but Mondays and Tuesdays, those are my launching pads for the week.
Yeah.
So really on Monday and Tuesday, I have a very, very specific schedule that I abide by. So it's literally like wake up 3:45, get to the gym 4:30, train from 5 to 8 a.m. Eat breakfast 8:15 to 8:45, devotional 8:45 to about 9:15, prayer, things like that, mental break, take this meeting, take this call. So, I just really have a specific schedule that I go by, and I try to stick to it. I even try to allot the last 10 minutes of every hour to, taking phone calls or returning phone calls or returning text messages or just scrolling on social media, whatever I want to do. Yeah, man, it's just extreme discipline and boundaries, not allowing people to overly infringe upon, those specifics that I already have outlined. But within reason, my mama call whatever time
Yeah,
I'm gonna
right,
pick
right, right, right,
you
right,
know,
right.
one of my business partners call, I'm gonna pick up the phone. So yeah. But if it's my boy from college that just want to talk about the latest Meg Thee Stallion post, I'll call you back, bro. So
Which I understand. I think that's really good, and I think that's a healthy perspective. Now, everybody may not want to wake up at 3:45, but I
yeah,
think that you gave us some wisdom on how to really, really focus and how to really accomplish the things you want to accomplish when you have a set schedule and when you are committed to that set schedule.
yeah.
And kind of staying in that space. Have there been times where you were like, you looked at that 3:45 and was like, not this week?
Dude, often, every week. Every single week, I do it. But I mean, I know at some point these 3:45s are gonna pay off.
Right.
So, that's why, and I've seen it pay off. The Bible says that if you're faithful over a few things, God will make you rule over many. So,
Yeah.
I'm always trying to be extremely intentional about everything that God has entrusted in within me, like trying to be as faithful to that as possible. So, if that is my workout class starts at 5 every morning, and I'm going to set my alarm for 3:45 just so I can spend a little time with God before I do that. Jason, stay faithful to that. I don't care how late you was up last night. I don't care what you got going on. I don't care how tired you are. Stay faithful to it, and you'll see the reward to your faithfulness on the back end.
Yeah, that's really good. So just moving along a little bit, you already kind of talked about all the things that you're doing, right? You talked about owning a fitness gym. You talked about getting into trucking, which seems so random to me. You talked about like just all the things that you have kind of put your hands to doing. Kind of share a little bit. How are you? I mean, you kind of talked about a little bit about with your schedule, but how did you get interested in that thing and kind of tie that into just kind of talking about multiple streams of income, because I think that that's something that people are trying to figure out how to navigate, especially in light of the pandemic, and people are trying to figure out how do they create sources to where that they can put money towards their dreams and put money towards what they want to do. So kind of share some of your thoughts about that.
I think too many people, and man, just by virtue, I'll make a lot of scriptural references.
It's
But
fine.
yeah, um, I think a lot of people are overwhelmed with trying to find their calling and just not committed to walking in obedience. And what I've found is if we just walk in obedience, if we're just sensitive to, if we're just intentional about, giving God that time and allowing him to speak to us, and we're intentional about, following into because I think your destiny is a lot from one level of obedience to another. Like,
Yeah.
so as we are obedient, God will continue to reveal things to us. So gym was never in my foresight. I never wanted to be a personal trainer, never wanted to own a gym. I wanted to be a college or university president 4 years ago. I was going to get my master's and my PhD to do that. I had my plan set. But just one, like I was saying, one level of obedience to another. So, I just said, okay, God, I'm gonna obey you. I'm gonna save this amount of money, and then I'm gonna just clock it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then the opportunity opened up with my business partner for me to start training with him and eventually open our own facility. So that happened. And then, we had built enough capital. The gym was doing well. We were able to get access to the PPP fund. So it was just like, okay, now let's evaluate the market. What's happening? We can go to real estate. Well, I'm already in real estate, but at the time, real estate is becoming very overly saturated. Occupancy rates are up, but interest rates are down. So a lot of people are going in and snagging these properties. So let's put a hold on real estate. What is another market that's not going anywhere? Well, with the increasing number of people who are in their homes, there's an um, increasingly is becoming more and more of a demand for things to be shipped and carried from one place to another. Right. So let's look at the trucking market. Currently in the trucking market right now, there are more loads than there are carriers to get those loads. So this is an undersaturated market. Yeah. So it's just like, we had the funds to go into it. The numbers made sense. So, and then we also had a good friend of ours, Brianna Ben, who was already entangled in that market. So she just kept telling us, man, y'all need to get on. Y'all need to get on this. So as soon as we got the opportunity to do it, we did it. Got our first truck last October. It's been on the road doing well. Was able to get our second truck this past March, and we're looking to get our third one in June. Wow. So it's just one step of obedience to another.
Yeah, I think there's such wisdom in that. It made me think about something, Jason, that I think a lot of times we underestimate. I think we underestimate God's ability to influence us, but we actually underestimate the power of exposure to certain spaces. And I think we underestimate actually the value of taking opportunities when they're presented to us. For instance, for me, I never thought I would be working in the financial sector. Like that's not, I have no desire. Like I didn't go to school to be a finance major or anything like that. But I work for a credit union, right? And in this process of working for a credit union, there's a aptitude and there's an exposure that I probably wouldn't have gotten had I not gone this route or have these situations not played out the way it played out. And I think something you were getting at is super important is that when we allow opportunities that fall in front of us to just, and we actually lean into those opportunities, it can create a level of access and a level of exposure and a level of income that some of us really need, right? And so I think that that's really powerful that even in that your obedience to God was a moment where it created increase for you in a financial way that you really, really wanted and really, really desired. And so that's so interesting. So kind of talk to me a little bit about just the details of that, right? I mean, obviously we can be led by God. Obviously we have, those of us, and everybody who may watch this or listen may not be people of faith, but those of us who are people of faith, we know we are led by the Spirit and all those different things. But kind of talk a little bit about the response of that, because one of the things is we have this is a huge problem within Christendom, and I'm not gonna cut it out because I'm gonna leave what I'm about to say in. We put so much on faith that we forget that we have work to do. We put so much on, hey, I said, I believe God, but yet we don't actually get involved in the game. So what are some actionable steps that some entrepreneur or leader or an individual could take based on your experience to actually step into other streams of income or increase their value in some way?
Well, man, I will wholeheartedly agree with that statement because one of my monikers is do not talk to me about faith without talking to me about works. They intertwine, they are interwoven. Like you cannot tell me you believe God for something and your work ethic does not match that. So
no, you can't walk past that. Go back. What'd you say again?
What? I don't even, you can tell me that you
believe. I'm gonna tell you what you said. You said don't have faith for something and your worth ethic doesn't match that. You like, bro, that's powerful. I'm gonna let you talk. I'm sorry.
I mean, hey, I mean, this is what it is, and I feel like that's why God has allowed me to occupy the spaces that I have, because it's not just me. As a matter of fact, like I'm one of the most um I'm not very charismatic. If you see me in the sphere of influence that I operate in terms of church, like I'm not the run, like, because usually when messages or word resides with me, when it like really empowers me, I'm ready to go do something about it.
Yeah.
Like, man, if I'm hearing something in church and it's like guided towards, us occupying some of God, enlarging our territory, that literally motivates me to go and research or go get in the stock market a little bit more. Let me see what
Right.
stock's gonna be up now. Let me see where I need to put my money. Let me see what the market is looking like on this side of town. It propels me to do something. So some very, very practical steps that I can give people to do that is consistency. Like I was just saying, earlier, man, I am I am an advocate for just being consistent over,
Yeah.
what you do. So whether that's waking up early in the morning, whether that is whether that's for me in my gym, like people will tell you, we are over 3 years in business. Until this day, owner or not, CFO or not, like you're going to see me vacuuming out at least 2 times a week in that gym. You're going to see me filling up water jugs and bringing it to the gym. You're going to see me straightening up. You're going to see me always having the finances in place, making sure I get people direct deposit and paid on time. I'm going to always be consistent over what I have. So I think that is one of the most important things that you can do is just get lost in consistency. Like
Right.
whatever that looks like for you, in terms of the goals and the accolades that you're trying to achieve, like find you some steps or find you some behaviors and be consistent with those.
Yeah, that's really good, Jason, and I think that gives a lot of people perspective, and that for me is encouraging because it elevates the reality that no one is that successful if they're not consistent, right?
Oh,
Because we simply in our culture we think people get places real quick because they just are majorly talented, but the most successful people are the most consistent people. I mean, prime
mm,
example, the late great Kobe Bryant was known for after games going to the gym and shooting thousands of shots after a game. Like you
right.
can't be that great if you're unwilling to make the sacrifices that you're talking about and being consistent and doing it over and over again. I know for me, some people may wonder like, how much time do you put in this, bro? When I tell you that literally, even after this conversation, I'm going to be editing content. Even after this conversation, I'm going to be reading something or looking at something or listening to a podcast or doing something this week because this is what I do. I'm not getting paid for it yet, but the reality is I'm consistently putting time in it, and so it makes it easy for me to do it. I think it's really great what you said, Jason, about that point of consistency. So my question for you is, how can people like get empowered, or excuse me, more specifically, how are you empowering other people to help you do what you do? Because Jason, you're doing a lot. Lord have
Uh,
mercy. How do you sleep? I know you say you go to bed at 9:30, but dog, if you anything like me, I know I'm always thinking about the next thing that I have to do. So how are you empowering people around you, or how are you bringing people into the process so that you can be more productive and more successful at what you do every day?
um, well, I'm a firm believer that you have to duplicate yourself. I don't think you can be successful only being the only one that does what you do.
Yeah.
So how do I do that, man? I just really offer myself, man. Like my life is service. Um, and I hate to jump ahead, but I think that was one of the questions. You was like, how is service, intertwined, or how do I take time for service or something like that? But my life is service. I've always been one that is free with information. Like, bro, if you got a question for me of how I did, where did I go, who approved this, man, I will freely give it. Like, I've never been that person because I just understand that, my cup will never run dry. Like as
Yeah.
I give, man, my well will continue to be in field. So, man, that's one thing, I just kind of freely give. Two, man, which is also kind of like under the umbrella of servitude. Um, I just try to empower like through very practically what I do on social media. Just always releasing motivational content, like always trying to post everything that I'm doing, including my failures. Like I made a whole video last year about just my failures. Hey y'all, this is what I did. My credit score dropped all the way down to 580. A year and a half ago, I
Woo.
worked to get it all the way back up to a 720. This is how I did it. Hey y'all, I did this real estate deal that I paid $10,900 for, but it was a bad deal. So many more things because I didn't do A, B, C, and D, and I had to sell that house for $3,500. And I'm gonna tell you how I did it. So I think just continuing to be transparent in that what you portray of my life or your perspective through social media, what you give for me is not all peaches and cream. It's not all good. So yeah, that's what I was saying, man. Just transparency and servitude.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, that's probably one of the biggest issues we've seen in our culture is not enough leaders are presenting their failure, and at least in the social media space now, like they'll pull the, well, I'll write about it in my book, you need to buy my book today in order for you to find out about what I went through. But like, we people, and it's something Dexter Sullivan said when I interviewed him a while back. He said that success is not this way. It doesn't happen like that. Dexter was like, it dips, and there's some drawbacks, and there's all these things that can happen in that process of success, but it doesn't mean you're not being successful. The thing is, and this is what I'm adding to, the thing is, one step is a step. And whether my
Yeah.
step is an inch or whether my step is a mile, it's still a step. And so I think that that's really healthy and really awesome that you actually have taken the time to share those things. And I think I would encourage people, if they're watching or listening to this, to go back and look at those videos and look at some of the stuff that you've done and look at some of the things that you have shared, because I think that those will be markers for other people in how they can move forward in business or how they can move forward in their lives. And I think it'll be helpful for people to see that there are people just like them that have made sacrifices and tried to take some steps forward in that regard. But moving on, so kind of talk to me, and you kind of already touched on it. How, like, you've overcome a lot of challenges in your work life, right? But even prior to just stuff last year, what are some lessons that you learned? Like, what are some things that you've held on to over the years, even with messing up and failing at stuff? Like, what are some things that you said, okay, I'm gonna take this lesson and I'm gonna give this to somebody else? What are some of those things?
Lessons I've learned over the years. Man, it's so many. Like, how you can have such a wealth of something that you're trying to pick the best one. Um,
That's real.
in terms, I would say one that just first comes to mind, like in terms of partnerships in business.
Yeah.
Um, just make sure you get clarity and just make sure you get clarity on the front end with with where everybody's mind is concerning this venture.
Yeah.
Because I think the calamity can introduce itself when in your mind, this is the best way to go about it, and this is how I know we can make it a multi-million-dollar corporation. But
Right.
somebody may, in their mind, just be thinking under the auspices of just a few $1,000s, like,
Yeah.
and not willing to make the sacrifices to, make it this multi-million-dollar, or vice versa. Like, somebody could have billion-dollar ideas, and you not be in the mental space to um um adapt to that, and then
Yeah.
just make the sacrifice for it. So I think it'll be first thing, like if you're in business partnerships, make sure that there is as much clarity as possible on the front end.
But that's really good. I think that's really helpful for us to recognize and realize that our mindset is a big thing. And a lot of people, seriously, that is a big aspect of how people approach everything. Like your mindset, this thing can either make or break people. I mean, it literally does. And it's so interesting because we are in a time where throughout this pandemic, I mean, you've been thriving in the pandemic with us, which I think is awesome. But there are a lot of people over this last year who have experienced so much either trauma or hopelessness or a lack of drive or a lack of desire or a lack of motivation. What would you say to people that might watch this or listen to this who are saying to themselves, like, okay, Jason, okay, you out here doing a thing, cool. But I don't feel like I can move forward. I don't feel like I can figure it out. Like I don't have the space for faith in my life. What would you say to them to motivate them and encourage them to really get out of that space?
Um, Usually people are in that space because some level of discouragement or some level of trial, some level of suffering has hit their lives to, try to persuade them that there is not a next for them. Um, so man, I mean, to that person, I would just encourage them that, trials, suffering, unsureness, frustration, all that stuff comes to make you stronger.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't come to frustrate you, although it can and probably will. It doesn't come to deter you or dissuade you to go into another direction. Although it can and it probably will.
Yeah.
But sometimes we misinterpret the things that come for the purpose of actually giving us a learning experience,
Yeah.
or giving us a lesson, or giving us an opportunity to just become stronger. We misinterpret that for something that is meant to tear us down.
Yeah.
When it is absolutely not that. But in order for you to have that, you have to have faith in something that's bigger than you,
Yeah.
that can carry you in spaces that you don't feel like you're strong enough to carry yourself.
Yeah.
So with that said, of course, y'all know which faith I'm endorsing. But whatever, I mean, I understand it's over 10,000 religions in the world.
Right. Right.
Hey, I mean, but find you something to have faith in, that would give you or empower you with the ability to have faith in yourself.
Jason, I think that's really good. I think that's really, really healthy and good perspective that people can have as it pertains to that subject. So we're gonna kind of get to the end. I just want to ask you about like what are some of the things that you're reading right now or listening to? I know everybody don't have time to sit down and grab a book. I mean, not even being funny, bro. Like I have all these books behind me, and I've read a good portion of them, but some of them are on the to be determined list. To be determined. What are some of the things that you're doing to grow as far as reading, or if you're listening to certain things right now? What are some things you're doing?
So I just finished I just finished reading a book called It's My Pleasure. And that book, let me tell you, I do not ever know authors. I don't. I just buy books. Never know authors. So it's called It's My Pleasure. It's based around the Chick-fil-A model, their infrastructure, and just how they built their business from the ground up. So it's a customer service oriented book. Really good book. So It's My Pleasure. I'm reading a 31-day devotional called Entre Discipleship, and it evaluates and looks at entrepreneurship through the lens of the Bible. And also, I just had a book that came in today. I literally got delivered today. I plan on getting into it tonight, but it's called Bitcoin in Black America. I'm just trying to I'm thinking about I'm in the stock market, but I'm not in cryptocurrency. I don't engage in the cryptocurrency element of it. So, but it's, if you have TV or social media, you see like cryptocurrency is booming, but I really want to know more about it. And that book will put that in context a little bit more. And as far as what I'm listening to, I listen to, as far as podcasts, I listen to my own, the Jason Gibson podcast. And
You're just plugging. It's fine, bro.
Yeah, it was a plug. It was this little plug. But outside of that, I listen to Earn Your Leisure podcast probably every day. I listen to their Market Mondays with their shows with guests. I re-listen because they delve into closing the black wealth gap a lot. They deal into stock market investing in the stocks that are up and down and what you should put your money into, what you should buy and hold, day trading, all that kind of stuff. So I listen to that a lot.
It's good. I think that that's really awesome. You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but one of my last questions for you is, how are you specifically paying it forward in just your life, whether it be personal or whether it is in business?
Um, well, in terms of paying it forward, and I alluded to it earlier, man. Like I think my life is paying it forward. Like my life is servitude. Literally everything I do, I am serving people. So because I mean everything I do is service oriented, with the exception of the things that I develop residual off of. But in terms of my role at the church, that's what it is. It's serving people. It's always being work operating in the capacity where I am sometimes having to be a friend. Sometimes I'm having to be a minister. Sometimes I'm having to be a just a lending ear. And then on the gym side, I'm just doing that, but from a physical standpoint. So yeah, man, I think my life is service as far as like specific things that I'm doing to like pay it forward, so to speak. Um, just regular everyday things. Paying for somebody food behind me if I'm in Chick-fil-A line.
Yeah. Are we all
I'll,
Chick-fil-A lines?
I'll really keep up with it. Hey, y'all, bring me that ticket, that couple over there. Let me pay for it. No, little random stuff like that. Today, just taking Gavin and Jordan to lunch. Hey,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that's great. And I mean, just mentioning my brother and one of his best friends, like that is a form of paying it forward and mentorship, because I promise you they look up to you and admire you as a person. And so they're being impacted by your willingness to invest in them outside of what they can get from you or what you could actually get from them, right? They're like learning significantly.
So I guess that was I mean, I get, see, like I said, like I'd never think about it as paying forward because I think that our lives should reflect servitude. But I guess
Yeah.
that's it. Like today, literally took them to lunch. Both of them about to graduate next month. So I was like, just thinking about like asking about their plans. What are y'all about to do? And I told both of them, I'm like, man, how much y'all have in y'all savings right now? Do not lie to me. And I told them, I want you to take X amount of that and I want you to put it in the stock market. And you about to go to grad school. I do not want you to touch it until you get out of grad school.
Wow.
And then even then, it had made the dividends that you want to have. I even tell you, invest into this stock, this stock, this stock. It's going to go up. Your money is going to double, maybe triple. So, I mean, I guess those are some of the things that I do to pay it forward. Like, just the people that God has, I guess you could say, assigned me to, is just like just caring about them mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, and giving them all of me, because that's my biggest life goal. My biggest life goal is when I leave this earth, I want to leave empty, having given all that I have to offer. Like, I don't want to have anything. Like, I want to literally be drained in its most literal sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that's my desire too, man, is to leave everything on the field, to be able to say what Paul said, I ran my race, I finished my course. Right. So
Yeah.
I think we all want that to happen in our lives. And I think that's really great. So my last and final question for you, Jason, and you can say whatever song you want to say. What song would you use to describe yourself and why?
Um,
Like if you
I
both.
got two. Can I pick two?
Sure.
So one one is a song called Grace. It's written by a guy named Jason Gibson, and it can be found on all different media outlets.
The fact that, you know what, Jason, I respect you, dog, because the fact that you are willing to push your stuff on here is the best.
On everybody's platform have people that don't know me. So I guess that's
Yes.
all.
Yes. And by the way, I've heard this song. It's a beautiful song and it's a powerful song. I had it on repeat for a minute. I said,
Oh yeah.
out here made a hit. I,
So look, man. So yeah, Grace. Just because like it's all. I mean, the hook is Jesus, your grace knows no bounds, and I think the reflection of Jesus should be displayed or exhibited through us. So man, I'm at a very grace oriented time in my life. Like this is I'm not judgmental. I'm always, when somebody wrongs me, when somebody doesn't accomplish something or achieve a task in the manner that I should, like I'm always looking at, okay, let's see how we can fix it, or let's see what has contributed to this. Or I'm never like just coming down on people. I'm at that very grace giving space in my life. So that's on that side. But on the other side, I would have to say Motivation by T.I. Favorite song. You look me in my eye.
Oh yeah.
Don't kill me. It make me I'm saying, anywhere you can take the fame and the cheddar. But, anyway, I'm still a go-getter. But yeah, T.I., one of my favorite rappers, one of my role models. I love what he does as far as intertwining, his personal life and business, how he has leveraged his rap career and, just developed so many different things that are revenue generating entities. So yeah, on gospel side, Jason Gibson, Destiny Project Grace. Secular side, T.I., Motivation.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty, Jason. Well, bro, thank you for coming on, man, and having this conversation with me. I think that people will be encouraged and inspired to actually pursue some of the things that you talked about and actually get a schedule. Because that schedule piece, I think that that's a huge thing for people to realize. That if anything that we can learn from this conversation is that you have to maintain a discipline and maintain a schedule and be consistent. So thank you so much for your time, Jason. And man, I hope that people are inspired by what you had to say today.
Yeah. Oh, man, I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe today on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. To get more information about me and what I'm doing, email me at scottconsultations@gmail.com or follow me on social media on Twitter and especially Instagram at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. Thank you for watching this week's episode. I really appreciate it. Much love, and let's get started.